I'm guilty. I say I want to date. I think I might want to date, but I don't really take any steps to start dating. Well, apparently that's called the intention-action gap. And we're going to talk about it right now.
Welcome into this week's episode of Dating at Her Age. And I found this article in Forbes that explains this hesitator mindset. And I have never found something that explains me so well. Explains me and many other people that I know when it comes to dating and just moving forward in life as a whole.
Yeah, the article's entitled 2 Ways to Shed Hesitator Mindset and Find Love. It's written by Mark Travers, and Forbes says he writes on psychology, and totally believe it. After reading this article, he got into my brain for sure. So let's talk about where this article starts off, which is the intention-action gap. And as I said, I'm guilty of this. It seems to me, like my interpretation of the intention-action gap, Caitlyn, is, we mean to date, we just don't take any steps to start dating. And the great thing about this article is he also offers 2 ways to solve this, and we'll get into those in just a few minutes.
And one thing that I'm just reading on this right now, it says decision paralysis, just because you're waiting for perfect timing. I feel like decision paralysis is something I have never really had the words for, but you just get so overwhelmed with the thought of doing something, even though you want to do it, but you don't. Honestly, it's just, to me, it's explaining that you don't feel like you're good enough or ready, so you don't make the decision to actually take action. And I feel like this is something that I am trying to navigate in many different ways, but I've also experienced it on the other end where I've noticed this in other people as well.
Mm-hmm. Me.
Yeah.
I know you've noticed it in
Not
me.
you, people I've tried to engage with.
Oh, with dating?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were talking about me. I was like,
No.
okay, stop staring into
You're
my
a
soul.
go-getter, in my opinion.
Well, I have total decision paralysis when it comes to dating because I think about all the steps. It's exhausting. You know, I've got to recreate a profile, which I've promised to do in the new year, is recreate a dating profile. I have to start swiping. I have to start communicating with somebody, a perfect stranger, and then I have to set up these dates and go out on these dates. And usually they turn out to be the date to nowhere. See, I'm already creating this mindset that's not positive. So that's right. I sink into the sofa and I'm like, forget it. I'll just sit here on the couch with my cat and I'll just doom scroll TikTok, or I'll watch an old episode of Saturday Night Live and read or whatever, and then I'll go to bed. And that's where my decision paralysis has got the best of me. It's because I look at everything I have to do instead of just taking it in chunks. And this is what I wish for myself, and I wish for you and everybody else, is take it in chunks. Like, okay, it's a half an hour on a Saturday morning. I'm going to focus, like I would, for example, setting my budget for the month. Mm-hmm. I'm going to focus on starting to set up that dating profile. And I'll start by deciding which of the 3 different app choices are at my fingertips or whatever. And I'll make that decision from there. And then whatever app I choose, then I can maybe set up some of my profile, put it on pause, and then do the rest of it later. But that, if I never get to step 1, I'm going to stay in decision paralysis for the rest of my ever-loving life.
Yeah, and I feel like something to relate this to is I experience this with more than just dating, like when it comes to just cleaning my house. Like you mentioned the budget, obviously, but if I have to clean my entire house, it seems like the biggest task in the world, when really, if I just start doing the dishes, that takes 5 minutes. And so I like your suggestion to do it in chunks and just small steps, because when you go into the dating world, if you just do the small step of going outside, that can help you, or going outside because a friend invited you. It doesn't have to be this big picture that's going to uproot your life and then you're going to get married and your life is completely changed, which that's how I think about it sometimes, and why it can be scary to date.
Yeah, it's like baby steps.
Yeah.
And maybe it's 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's whatever your tolerance level is for it. And I do this with my budget. I'm really intentional about my budget, but I don't spend all week long, praying and fasting over my budget. Mm-hmm. I do it on Saturday or Sunday at the beginning of the month, and then when I make a purchase, I just put that in. I put in my app and I move on, so it can deduct that amount. So it's like once you get over the hill of setting it, then you can pretty much forget about it. It goes on autopilot. I know dating is a little more intense than that because then you have to set up the dates and actually go meet. And we're going to get to that in a minute because he actually in this article offers a mindset solution to this, like switching up our mindsets on how we're looking at things. Because right now we're in the super negative space.
Yes.
We might as well just not date because we're so negative. It's like we might as well just start a podcast about cats at this point. we're in such okay. So we're going to get past the negativity. Thankfully, there's some solutions on the horizon in pretty short order here. So we talked about the decision paralysis. How about procrastination? He says procrastination is rooted in self-doubt and fear of vulnerability. 100%.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the fear of vulnerability. Self-doubt, I kind of have to fake that. Like I 100% have massive imposter syndrome when it comes to like my work life. People always tell me like, "Oh, you're doing this. You're so cool. I'm listening to this podcast, for example, things like that." And I'm just like that. Like in my mind, I'm like, that's not me. I don't know, like it is, but
you
it's
won't
not.
Take credit for it.
Yeah, so and I've also been called intimidating by people who I've tried to connect with at times, and I don't know if that also is adding to self-doubt on like, am I too intimidating? Am I doing this?
Because you're a strong woman? Or is that
I assume, I don't know, but that's just the self-doubt. I feel like I have self-doubt, but I try to fake that I don't. So it's not like real confidence, I guess. But the fear of vulnerability is, the fear of getting close to someone, because I think the risk there is you don't know how it's going to end, and you may get hurt as well. And
I would kind of flip this one a little bit, flip the script on this. I'd say my procrastination is rooted in this ain't going to work out. There's nobody
that's your
out there for me.
Self-doubt of the long term, but it's not necessarily self-doubt in yourself. It could be the other person.
I put it off because I figure it's just going to be the date to nowhere. And once again, here I'm going to be back on the dating apps, swiping left or right, whatever. It's the cycle that really puts me more in a vulnerable position.
Because there's a reason you think that. It's because you've experienced it. And so I think the same, because I've had negative experiences. That I've also had positive experiences, but the negative outweigh the positive usually when you're thinking about this. So you don't want to put yourself through that.
So it's decision paralysis, procrastination that leads to this intention action gap, which means we intend to date. We really think about dating. We mean to date, but then we're like, wah, we don't we don't take any action to actually date. And then the third point that we want to talk about is these unconscious routines that we create to prevent taking steps. So
choosing to stay inside on the weekend, which is okay to do. You need your recharge times, but you're doing it too much, talking to myself. But that's how I could see that. Like my routine is to go home, put on my comfies, and watch a movie if that's what I want to do for the Friday night, instead of reaching out to friends and saying, hey, do you want to go out and do this?
Or saying no to friends when they reach out.
Yeah, I do that often. I'm trying really hard not to this year, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at it, but I do get burnt out when I socialize too much.
One of my other unconscious routines has been I've been getting out more with friends, and I went out recently last weekend with a friend, and we went to an event in our community. It was fun. It was great. And didn't really meet anybody else, but at least we got out, right? We got out and out of our homes, and we had a good time. But one of the things that I am so good at doing is, like, I don't know for how long I've wanted to take a class. Like, I don't know what class, just sign me up for a class.
I do too, yeah.
Do you know how many people I've said, I'm going to sign up for art classes?
And then
you are like, I'm going to sign up for guitar lessons.
Haven't done that.
And you're strumming your guitar in your living room by yourself.
Which I'm learning it on my own.
That's cool.
Which is fine. But that's I wanted to do that to meet people.
So I think this would be the easiest thing to do, because there's so many classes out there. There's classes in the community that are free. There's classes at community college. I mean, I could go back, to college or university, I guess, if I wanted to. I haven't really considered that. But I look about I've even noticed adult continuing education classes offered by local public school districts that you can go to. And they're evening classes. They're 2 to 3 hours. They're not very expensive. And what I love about that is I don't need to re-enroll in college. I mean, that sounds like a commitment, like marriage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one day I will, because I did love going to college. But I just want something that's easy breezy to enroll in. I can test it out and see if I want to take another class. But I think that's one of the unconscious routines that I settle into, is just routinely not signing up for these easy classes to take that would get me into an environment that are labeled adult continuing education. So I know, because if you go back to college, you might end up
with a bunch of
with 18,
teenagers,
19, and 20-year-olds. Maybe.
Young adults, I guess.
Yeah, young adults.
Not always, but yeah.
But this might put me in an environment where there are more people my age who are all thinking the same thing. I ought to get out of the house more, and I ought to take a class, and I've been putting off an art class for 30 years. So I think those three things combined really explain to me why I've got this great intention, but I fail to take action.
Yeah, and it all really just comes down to mindset, because that's what we're telling ourselves and what we're used to doing, and we're staying in our little bubble for the most part, which every single person, I think, is guilty of that. And it's hard to step out of it, but I think that there's ways to do it.
Well, then the article goes on to talk about this as a hesitator mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that I love labeling things in a way that way I can. It's so simple to understand what I'm engaging in, and I'm engaging in hesitation, and so this is a hesitator mindset. And there are a couple of ways he talks about overcoming the hesitator mindset. And one is something you and I talk about a lot on the show, is rewiring our thinking. Rewiring our thinking. And I noticed the first point that he really, really stood out to me in this is talks about adopting self-affirmations, like being open to romantic possibilities, and this one kind of hits me in the heart, deserving love.
Yeah, and I don't think that for some reason, I don't know if we know that we don't think we deserve love until somebody kind of points it out to us. No, because I don't feel like I feel like I deserve love, but then like there's sometimes when I get into situations where I'm just like, you're treating me so nice, and I'm just like, but I'm not even, I just don't understand why. Like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but I feel like I don't know how to accept it.
Well, the reason this hit me in the heart is because I don't feel like I deserve love. Yeah. And so I look at that, and I've just dismissed it. Like, oh, it's just not going to happen. It's not meant to be for me. So when I read that, I get choked up about it, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, and they don't. It's maybe nothing that we can pinpoint to that created this. I mean, maybe it is a series of failed relationships. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something in our past that's nagging at us and drawing us into this negative space about what we don't deserve, and we feel like we don't deserve love. But when I read that, I was like, what would my life be like? What would my mindset be like if I told myself I do deserve love, instead of consistently repeating in my brain, don't worry about it, you're not meant to be loved. You can love yourself. I do. I mean, I remind myself, and when I get up in the morning, oh, you're your biggest champ, Deb. You're lovable, you're likable, you're going to go have a good day. People do love you. You have plenty of people in your life who love you. And I remind myself of this a lot, and I hope people remind themselves of this as well who are listening. You have a lot of people in your life who do love you. You have a lot of people. So if you feel like you're unlovable, what I try to do is remind myself when I'm in these moments before I start weeping and crying and about it, as I say, look at how many people do love me. I have friends, I have family, I have my kids above all, who love their mom, and I love them. And so there's a lot of love I'm surrounded with. But I do look at this first point that he makes as, this is a heartbreaker for me, because I live in that space. I live in the space, and I have for a really long time, of feeling like I don't deserve it. And this is like a message from the universe that you're going to figure out a way to get by in life without a true love, somebody who really, really loves you. And I've done a pretty good job of that. But I think by changing my mindset on this, my hesitator mindset, and telling myself, I'm open to love. I deserve love. I deserve a love who it's unconditional. I deserve a love that will reciprocate the same love I'm giving that like it's we're on equal footing here. It's not I'm over loving and being underloved, and it's we're equal in this. I really felt like when I read that, I was like, oh, that's why I really truly wanted to talk about this, because I feel vulnerable in this space. But I think by reading this, I'm like, there's ways around it, and it is positive affirmation, which I truly believe in. I think if I'm going to tell myself every single day that I stink at my job, I'm going to stink at my job.
You're going to 100%.
If I tell myself every day I stink at parenting, I'm going to stink at parenting. If I tell myself I'm a great mother and I'm a loving mother, I'm going to continue to flourish as a mother. If I tell myself I'm good at my job, I know my job, I love my job, I work hard at my job, I'm going to have a great day on the air when I'm on the radio. I think positive affirmations work. I just don't have yet to apply them to this space of love.
I agree. And I mean, you do deserve love. I deserve love.
You do
Every
too.
single human on this earth deserves love, like some sort of love.
But you are loved by a lot of people, Caitlyn.
And I think it's true that, yes, you can have self-love for yourself, but you can also just accept love from others. I think those can both coexist at once. It doesn't have to be like, I love myself, I'm the only thing that I need. That can kind of limit it, but it's like, I love myself, but I also am willing to accept this love. I struggle with this as well, so I can relate to that. One thing specifically that is sticking out to me as we're reading this with the self-affirmations, but it says identifying as someone who dates. I've never done that. I cannot say that I am like, I've tried, but for some reason, maybe I have imposter syndrome with that too. It just has never been something that has been common for me to do. And so it feels kind of foreign to me. And if I just start telling myself, this is the mindset and self-affirmation thing,
right?
I'm someone who's capable of dating, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I'm going to take home with me and think about a lot.
Yeah, and then he talks about embracing dating as a natural part of life,
which it doesn't feel natural to me. Going back to that.
So when I look at that, I usually put dating in a box, and I set it over here, and then when I'm ready to open the box, I open the box, and then I start dating again, and then in between first dates, which by the way, there's usually just first dates, so in between first dates, I'll set it back in the box, and I'll stick it on the shelf, and then I'll reopen it again, and I'll go on the next first date with the next person I'm going to go on a first date with. But if I decided to toss that box in the recycle bin and look at dating as a natural part of my personal life, it almost like, this is going to sound like I'm not looking at dating as important as it is, because I think it's really important, but it's almost like make it seem like it's a grocery shopping. Like it's included in your life as you include grocery shopping, as you include balancing your budget, as you include taking your car in for an oil change. I'm not trying to minimize dating, because we're looking for the loves of our life. But I think if we just incorporate it as we do anything we do naturally, a walk, exercise, then it doesn't feel like it's sitting in that box waiting for the next date to come along. And I would argue that if I did it that way, I'd probably get better at dating.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because just labeling it a natural part of life, it's just, for some reason, to me, it's never been natural. Like going to school, working, all of that feels very natural to me, but dating has always just been this big thing that seems so hard to do. And I don't know why that is. Maybe I need to talk to my therapist about that, like why I have that issue with it, because I've never felt natural at all. When I was younger, never felt natural. It was always just like, that's not my thing. You guys go do that. Maybe it's because I'm scared. I don't know. I eventually just labeled myself as awkward, and I was like, nah, that's not for me.
I think I think the reason it goes back to the intention action gap, which we were just talking about, the procrastination, the decision paralysis, the unconscious routines. And if we don't make it a natural part of our life, we just continue to fall back into that intention action gap. And the more we do something, the better we are at it. Remember the first day you stepped through the door as the producer of our radio show here at KSL News Radio?
Yeah, I was terrified. but I faked it because I was confident. I was like, whatever.
Well, it's kind of like dating. Now you're just such a natural at
and it. Was
it.
fine.
You could do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
You could produce 3-hour shows a day if you had to. You're so good at it now. But the first few days, I even remember transitioning from as a television news reporter, which I'd done for a couple of decades, I don't know, 25 years. I could do that in my sleep. You could throw me out in a news story and I could be in front of the camera in 5 minutes and, talk your ear off about what's going on the scene. And then I transitioned to radio, which was brand new to me. And I remember my first few times, well, probably more than my first few times, but first few times on the radio, even after all those years in television news, it was brand new territory for me. And I had to learn how to keep getting on the bicycle and riding it every single day until I didn't fall off anymore. Sometimes I still fall off, but I know how to get back up right away.
Yeah.
And you do too.
That's something.
And that's something that we probably should think about
with dating.
That's
where I was kind of going. Is like I haven't had an issue with that with career because every time I've done something that scared me, like number one, moving out of my hometown, that was scary. Go to school, excited. Number two, getting an internship here at KSL while I was still in college, scary. Did it, sounded good, great. Applying for a job at KSL, got the job, scary, great. It's all of these things. Like it was kind of like my method. Like if it scares you, you should probably try it.
Yes.
But for some reason, I mean, with limits, there's certain things that you shouldn't do if you're scared. But if it's scary because it's challenging and different, that's one thing. But I've never really. I'm trying, and I've been trying honestly since we started this podcast to put that towards dating as well by talking to more people, by saying yes to going out, by going on dates and all of this stuff, by doing things different than I've always had and getting myself out of the box of comfort that I'm used to being in.
Instead of going home every single night of the week after work, 2 or 3 nights a week, like, you and I talk about, are you going to the gym tonight? Or I'm going to 3 nights a week. I'm going 2 nights a week. What instead of doing that, I should say in addition to doing that, we said, oh, no, I'm meeting somebody for a date tonight, 2 nights a week.
Yeah, I should do that, but that sounds scary.
Well, that would be sort of a natural part of your life, right?
Yeah, to make it more natural and normalized, yeah.
And we'll actually get on to that more when we get into the next set of suggestions about how to take small steps to make this happen. But I think all in all, when you talk about this first step to overcoming the hesitator mindset, rewiring your thinking is key. Because if you're in that negative space, like, you and I we have spent a lot of time in that negative space with dating, talking about all the pitfalls, all the problems, all the concerns. If we flipped the script on that and started those self-affirmations, I'm worthy of love, I will find somebody who loves me. And putting dating in our natural space is just that we just date. I mean, we go to the gym, we go to the grocery store, and we date. Mm-hmm. It feels more natural than it does now to me, where it's like, oh, I feel like it's almost a burden.
Yeah, or just labeling it. What helps me is finding a connection, because sometimes the word dating is scary to me. I don't know. I've got to get past that.
Maybe use a different word.
I like the word connection because it's like it could be anything. It doesn't have to be this, doesn't have to be that, but it's just a connection.
So when I ask you where you're going tonight, you're like, I'm going to a connection.
Well, I was planning to go to the gym actually today, but we'll see. So I don't have anything on the docket at the moment other than the gym. So
under the self-affirmation tab, if you say you'll meet the love of your life at the gym, I expect by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the second tip on how to overcome the hesitator mindset. And this author talks about taking small steps. And I love the list because it's snackable, if you will. And it's something that you and I have committed to doing already. And the first suggestion is going to casual social gatherings. I love this. I've been doing it. I did it as recently as a few nights ago. It's a lot of fun. It lifts my spirits. It gets me out of the house, and it puts me in a space to maybe meet somebody new. So going to casual social gatherings. You've been doing more of that too.
Yeah, this last weekend I went to a comedy show and I hung out with some friends. I mean, some people came from out of town and kind of got me out, which is good, but it was very refreshing to hang out with my friends. And we went go-karting and I went to a comedy show. I met a stranger. I talked to the stranger.
What?
Yeah, a nice person. And that was that. I don't know. But I was thinking, I do comedy, something that I actually do enjoy going to. And, you go downtown, it's like $25 to go to a show. So I should just be maybe doing that more because there's probably like-minded people at that place. So it's kind of been added to my list of, hey, if you want to get out on a Friday night, there's always a comedy show going on.
And comedy is a cure.
Yeah, it is. It was great. I had a really good time.
I love a good belly laugh.
Yeah.
Like if I can laugh until I cry a couple of times a week, that puts me in a really good space.
Yep.
Okay, then the second tip is engaging in conversations without high expectations.
Yes,
okay.
The high expectations.
Do you know how many times I've gotten to a date hearing wedding bells as I'm walking up to
That's too much.
It's ridiculous.
See, I'm running from that if I get that thought.
Well, if you see me walking toward you, run. Tell the guy to run.
You want to have a balance of having hope and being open, but also not too much of a standard to be disappointed.
Oh my.
Because I always set myself up for disappointment. I try to have no expectations, honestly, because then what's could happen.
How many text messages have flung out of my phone and landed on my best friend's phone? It's like, this is the one. I know it is. Check out his picture. We connected. On a dating app. Have you gone on a first date? No. No, but in my mind, we're married. It's all good. I'm already planning the honeymoon.
That's like me seeing Justin Bieber on the internet and saying, I found the one. That's literally and I've done that, but I'm joking because I know the reality, right? Because he's my long lost love.
No, so engaging in conversations without a high expectations, I don't know. I'm thinking as I'm sipping my coffee, oh, maybe he is marriage material. What am I doing? How about if I just get to the second date?
First dates are kind of hard to have that because there's probably jitters, there's nerves, and you are kind of getting the very bare bones of the what do you do for work? Unless you've already established that through messaging and whatnot. I feel like once you get to the second date, you can get a little bit deeper into the trauma.
I'm just thinking back to the last time I was on dating apps. Really, really engaged on dating apps. So I was like, this is it. This is the time. This is my 6th year outside of divorce. This is the year it's going to happen for me. And I was basically in my brain, okay, not on the app, but in my brain when I was messaging with this guy for a week, and then a week turned into almost 2 weeks. I had planned our whole wedding, how perfect he was. Our kids were the same age. We were both empty nesters. He would, send me a message saying, sorry, I couldn't back to you. I was out helping my neighbors with them. I'm like, oh, he's an angel. It was a bot. Or he was just a catfish, it turned out. So I had in my brain planned this whole wedding and this honeymoon in Hawaii with a dude who didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So this speaks to stop engaging in conversations with high expectations. Just go.
Just show up.
Just show up.
That's how I feel about it. Just show up and be open to all the different directions it could go. Because it could go in a positive one, it could go in a negative one.
I was going to marry a catfish. I was going to marry a catfish. Just ridiculous. Okay. The third thing is setting achievable goals. Okay. This is where this sort of works for your, maybe one night a month at a comedy club that says, going on at least one date per month.
Once a month is attainable to me. Once a week seems like too much.
No, but if you're going to make it part of your natural life.
Yeah, you got to get there. But maybe it starts as once a month and then it merges to every other week and then it can be once a week.
So
that's a lot of people, unless it's the same person and that's how you're dating them. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I could stomach one date per month.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think so. Or just so. At least for me, one date for sure. And maybe the second thing is just making sure you get outside and socialize.
It's super low bar too. It's not like they're asking us to, run a marathon in the first week. It's just, like you said, do one date per month and work up to every other week. And then maybe you're to once a week. And then maybe before you know it,
you're in a relationship.
You're actually working out at the gym together.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just, but you're not going to get into a relationship if you don't date.
Yeah.
So you got to pick, like, just start slow.
Okay. Then the next tip is using dating apps while avoiding overthinking. Oh, that speaks to the catfish story.
Yeah. Which I overthink so much that I won't even get on dating apps. So that's me because I had a bad experience that I don't like them anymore. But yeah, and you should thinking critically. But also I think that that's important with your catfish story.
Totally.
Overthinking is not always a bad thing.
Well, I was overthinking in the wrong direction. I was thinking the guy was going to marry me. Finally figured out that he was a catfish. Then the final one is reframing rejection as redirection rather than personal failure.
That is so important because, like, anytime something doesn't go the way you planned, it's just the universe has a different plan. That's how I see it. And it's hard to realize it first, but it's important because I find that to be true. It's usually there's something better on the other side. That didn't work out because there's something better waiting for you. That's how I see it.
Just kind of playing off of your thoughts about the universe has a different plan. I like to look at it as the universe has seen something that I didn't see, and is working to keep me safe.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
Yeah. Keep my heart safe, keep my wallet safe, whatever, keep my mental state intact.
Well, I think it also speaks to, if you've been rejected, or even if you're in a situation where it's not really serving you the way that you think it should, if you're still focusing on that or focusing on rejection and that you're always being rejected or whatever, think about all the things you're closing off. You're closing off different connections that could be out there. So I try to remember that even though it's hard at times, but there's a lot of opportunity out there that we may be missing.
Yeah. I've been rejected a lot. When I look at that, it feels like a lot. And guess what? The sun still comes up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I might have a few tears for a week or two. My heart might be heavy for a while. Then eventually, I recognize that the sun is still rising and life is still good.
And you're probably better off without said person. I don't know for sure on the specific situations, but yeah, it's likely a blessing in disguise.
Well, finally, let's highlight this part of the article. It says, the perfect moment for love doesn't exist. Action must precede readiness. What do you make of that?
Yes. Well, I can relate to that on my own because I have wanted to build my own foundation before I feel like I can bring other people in my life, but it hasn't really been the thing that's holding me back. But I also feel like I've been on the other side of this, where I've been trying to engage in someone who has expressed interest in me. I will just say it's always somebody else who starts it, but then they get in their own way a little bit, and it can be frustrating, but they just don't feel like they have enough money. They don't have the right job. They, things like that. And so they're not even attempting, and they're just halting everything, which we're all guilty of. I don't think it's just, all on one side, but I just think there is no right time that you're going to be ready. So you should just let yourself be open and experience that, because it's going to take a long time for you to buy the house you want. It's going to take a long time for you to get that, super successful career. But in the meantime, you could be building a relationship. And me as a 30-year-old now, you can grow together is how I see this. Maybe you have a different perspective because you kind of did grow with somebody as you were my age. But it's just something I've experienced very directly of other people, giving that narrative to themselves of I'm not good enough. I need to have more money. I need to do all of this when, I'm over here thinking you are good enough, things like that, but they just can't see it in themselves. So I'm just explaining that I think it can be frustrating if we are the ones doing that as well.
Yeah. No, life does not come with a recipe.
No way at all. And that's something that as I've gotten older, I've learned as well, is you cannot make a plan because it's going to change.
Yeah, goals. You can make goals. But you have to be willing to pivot if the goal doesn't work out. But it does not come with a recipe. It doesn't say, add a little bit of a career, and then step 2, add a little bit of free time, and step 3, add a little bit of exercise. We are, as we've said, the CEO of our lives, and that includes our dating life. And if we aren't open to the idea that not everything will be perfect when we're ready to date, there will be no perfect time. There just won't be a perfect time. When I met my husband, it seemed to be twice in the most inopportune moments. Like he was a police officer, I was a news reporter, and in both instances, almost 5 months apart, we met at crime scenes, 2 totally separate crime scenes. And I could have been any reporter from the station I was working at that was sent out, and it could have been any police officer that was sent to the scene. Now think about that. That happens twice. Once in December at an armed robbery at a bank, and then months later in May. We didn't have any communication in between those. We just went our separate ways after that. And then months later at a hit and run accident in Salt Lake County. And then after that we connected. Now, were we in perfect spaces at the time in our personal lives? Probably not. I mean, there's probably 100 other things we each could have put on our list to make ourselves more ready for a relationship.
Yeah.
Whether that's saving more, or maybe we have more longevity on the job, or we have more vacation time, especially for me, less so probably for him, saved up so we could actually go on a honeymoon. As it was, our honeymoon was 4 vacation days for me. That's all I had, 4 vacation days. And thankfully, I think we scheduled our wedding around this. We had a holiday in between, so I was able to turn it into 5 days. We could have waited until I had 3 weeks of vacation set up, or whatever it is, more money saved in the bank. And, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I just really wouldn't have had it any other way. And I was 28. He was a few months younger than me when we got married. But we did wait a little bit. I mean, it was nice, I will say, to have a little bit of a longevity under my belt for my career, and knowing I was going to stay in Salt Lake City. That's what I wanted to do. There might be a little bit of that. I'm not saying that personal goals can't factor in. Sometimes they do, just sort of naturally, because of our career choices, and maybe we have to move or whatever the case may be. But I do know this. Life does not come with that recipe.
No, not at all.
And you can make every excuse. To me, what an excuse is just you're just avoiding. You're not ready.
And you may not realize it. Maybe you really aren't ready, but I think everything in my life that I've ever done, I've never felt ready for, but I just do it anyways. So just being open, I think the message here is we all need to be more open.
Absolutely.
And not get in our own way.
Every single day I drive downtown to work in Salt Lake City at Broadcast House. And every single day I get on the freeway at the same place. I have about a 25-minute drive, I should say. 25-minute drive. I get in the same place. And it's crazy town, okay? It is absolutely, I feel like I'm taking matters into my own hands, and I hope it ends well every single time. Every single morning when I get on that freeway, I am not ready. I am not ready. Honestly, there's 3 lanes I have to cross to get on the main freeway so I don't get pushed off onto a belt route or pushed off onto an exit ramp. If it's snowing, that's a whole nother, set of chaotic standards that I have to get over before. Every single day I'm not ready. Okay, do I not go to work?
Yeah.
Do I just stop the car and have traffic hopefully not crash into the back of me? No, I got to keep getting on the freeway. I can tell you, I get on the freeway every single day, pins and needles. And I have been doing that for a really, really long time. I'm 57 years old, almost 58. I've been driving for a really long time. And every day I get on the freeway, I'm not ready. Think about something you're not ready for almost every single day, or every single week, or a couple of times a year. And if you constantly just stop the car and didn't go forward, you're never going to get there. So that's how I see life. There is no perfect recipe. There's 101 things you'll never be ready for, maybe all in 1 month. But unless you propel forward, you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah. So, there's no perfect time. There's no perfect person. There's no recipe. I think we're all just figuring this out together. So it's just important to remember that you deserve love. I deserve love. We have to tell ourselves that.
Let's go have fun.
And not get in our own way. I think this was a really good conversation.
It was. It was.
I'm inspired.
I am too. I was thinking about this. Let's just go have fun. Let's just get out there and date.
Take the pressure off.
Go have fun.